common. Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Babatunde Okewale, and you're welcome to another episode of How to Get Pregnant and Have a Baby. Today we'll be talking about uterine fibroids. What are uterine fibroids? They are very common benign tumors of the womb. And what we mean by being benign is they are non-cancerous. So if anyone tells you, oh, I have fibroids, and I think it might go on to become cancer, one can easily reassure such people that no, it is not cancer, it is a benign tumor. But they are quite common. It affects 1 in every 5 women between the age of 35 and 50. They can vary in size, they can vary in location, and sometimes they vary in number. So you find some women have single fibroid and some might have multiple fibroid. One of the interesting things about uterine fibroid is it is more common among black people. In fact, there is an estimate that it is 3 times more common among blacks compared to other races. And the figure between blacks and Caucasian is as high as ×9. We do know that the female hormone estrogen causes the growth of fibroid. How do we know that? It's been found out that women who have fibroids, once they reach menopause, when their estrogen content starts decreasing, fibroid also starts to decrease. It's also been found out that women who are pregnant and have small fibroid, because of the increased estrogen in their system, the fibroid tends to grow bigger in size. How does a fibroid start? It starts inside the uterine muscle. That's its original place where it starts from. And there are different types of fibroid. The fibroid that stays inside the muscle of the uterus is called an intramural fibroid. Sometimes they get big enough that they point towards the inside of the womb. In such situation, we call them submucous fibroid. And sometimes they point outwards of the muscle of the womb, in which case we call them subserous fibroid. There's also another type of fibroid called pedunculated fibroid. Pedunculated means they have a stalk and they can twist on themselves. Now, what causes fibroid? A lot of people get upset when I tell them that in the majority of cases, we don't know why. But there are some things we know go hand in hand with fibroid. And one of them is we know it tends to run in family. You'll find quite a lot of women that will tell you that my grandmother had it, my mom had it, and here I am having it as well. So that's an association. We also know that it's commoner among black people. In fact, like I said earlier on, 3 times more common than in other races. We also know that it has an association with obesity. Obesity means the body mass index far above 30. In such women, they tend to produce more estrogen, because estrogen is produced also in the fat of the body. So if one is obese, that means one will be producing more estrogen, and we already know that estrogen causes the growth of fibroid. For example, if a woman is aged between 30 and 40 and she's finding it difficult to achieve a pregnancy, we know it is more common to find fibroids in such women than in women of similar age group who have had children already. So there is a protective activity of pregnancy on fibroid. Women who have had children do not tend to have fibroid. So it's commoner among women who are trying to get pregnant. There's another association. Women who start their period at a very early age, in fact, at less than 10 years old, tend to have fibroid. And the reason for that is probably that their reproductive life cycle is more extended. So they have a long time when they are producing estrogen. What are the symptoms of fibroid? For the majority of women who have fibroid, they don't have any symptom. They don't even know they have it. It is usually detected accidentally. And most of the time, it is when they go to the hospital for a different reason entirely. Sometimes when they are pregnant and they go for the antenatal class, and the doctor decides to do an ultrasound scan, and suddenly notice that he's seeing a very small fibroid in there. So for most women, that is the first time. So it can present asymptomatic. Asymptomatic means no symptoms at all. But in other women, it does produce symptoms. And the kind of symptom fibroid produce depends on quite a lot of things. It depends on where the fibroid is, how big the fibroid is, and how many the fibroids are. Generally speaking, the kind of fibroid that protrudes inside the womb, the one we call submucous fibroid, tend to cause excessive bleeding. Women who have such fibroid present in the clinic with menorrhagia, that is, their period is excessively high or excessively much. And why does that happen? The reason is the surface area where a woman will bleed from inside the womb is extended when a fibroid is protruding inside the womb. Women who have submucous fibroid, that is the one that projects inside the womb, also tend to suffer from infertility. And the way that happens is sometimes the protrusion blocks the tubes, and sometimes even if the woman gets pregnant, implantation is affected. So that's about submucous. The kind of symptom that an intramural fibroid causes a woman is, if it starts extending inside the muscle wall, it can cause pain. So in such women, the way they present is with pain. And if it is a subserous fibroid, the kind that protrudes outside of the womb, they are the ones that usually cause a pelvic mass. The woman will notice a mass in her tummy. And if the mass is big enough, it can cause other symptoms. Symptoms like pressure symptoms. If the fibroid protrudes outside of the womb and it is pressing forward on the bladder, it will cause urinary symptoms. The woman might complain of urinary frequency or what we call urgency. If the fibroid protrudes backward onto the rectum, it might present as constipation in such women. If it is a pedunculated fibroid, the kind of fibroid that I said has a stalk and they can twist on themselves, they can cause pain. And if they protrude so much that the whole of the abdomen is occupied, they might cause pressure symptoms on other organs in the abdomen. It might affect the kidney and it might affect the bowels at the back. The definitive diagnosis is usually through an ultrasound scan, especially an abdominal scan or a vaginal ultrasound scan. The scan will tell you which type of fibroid it is and where it is located. Sometimes with the scan, you might need a more advanced scan, such as CT scan, to be able to tell you or differentiate it from a suspicious ovarian mass. Another way of detecting fibroid is doing what we call laparoscopy. Laparoscopy means taking a telescope and looking directly inside a woman's tummy. Sometimes you are looking for something else. You probably are checking to see why a woman is not getting pregnant, and you are doing a laparoscopy and dye test, and suddenly you see this fibroid sitting there. And sometimes it might be because the woman is having another operation that we call laparotomy for a different reason. Her abdomen is opened up, and lo and behold, you see a fibroid there. So those are the different ways in which it can be diagnosed. But generally speaking, most of the time, an ultrasound scan clinches the diagnosis. Does every fibroid require treatment? No. The general rule is, if you have a fibroid that is not giving you any problem, it's better to leave it, especially when it is small and it is not giving any symptom and you have not gotten pregnant yet. But generally speaking, any fibroid that is causing infertility, any fibroid that is causing excessive pain, any fibroid that is causing excessive bleeding, or that is bigger than what you expect a 12 to 14 weeks pregnancy to be, requires treatment. And there are different ways of treating a fibroid. One of the ways I've mentioned already, which is just ignoring it, expectant management. What that means is you will be checking on the fibroid maybe every 6 months with an ultrasound scan to make sure it's not gotten any worse or it's not gotten any bigger. But when you need to treat it, the first thing you need to ask are, where is the fibroid? How big is the fibroid? How many are the fibroids? And what is the age of the woman? For example, if a woman is aged 49 and she's close to menopause, and we know that fibroid feeds on estrogen, and we know that once a woman reaches menopause, the estrogen is going to be cut off, then it's better to just observe. That might not need any treatment if it's not causing any other symptoms. But the different types of treatment that one might have for fibroid are, you could give drugs. The kind of drugs that would counter the effect of estrogen that feeds fibroid. And this kind of drugs are what we call progesterone. You can decide to put a woman on the birth control pill if the problem is excessive bleeding and she's still wishing to have more children. There are surgical treatment for fibroid as well. Basically, when we talk about surgical treatment, we are talking about 3 types of treatment. One is called myomectomy. Myomectomy means removal of the fibroid and leaving the womb behind. This is the kind of operation we mostly do in Africa and especially in Nigeria, because people do not want their womb to be removed. Majority of the women who opt for myomectomy, that is removing the fibroid and leaving the womb behind, are still desirous of having their own children. And that is the kind of operation mostly done in Nigeria and in Africa. In Caucasians, or in Europe, or in North America, when a woman has fibroid, in the majority of them, they want a permanent cure for it. And the kind of operation we do in such environment is usually hysterectomy. Hysterectomy means removal of the whole of the womb. It gives a permanent cure for fibroids. But the problem is, there is no longer any womb to carry any children there. There's another type of treatment that is done in fibroid operation. It is called UAE, uterine artery embolization. Uterine artery embolization means the blood vessels that supplies the uterus and subsequently supplies the fibroid is blocked off, such that the fibroid is starved of blood. And the whole idea is, once there's no blood supply to the fibroid, it will shrink. This is one of the newer types of treatment for fibroid. And this kind of treatment is usually done by a radiologist. We call them interventionalist radiologists. So those are the three major ways of removing fibroid. Now, the myomectomy and the hysterectomy can be done in an open surgery, or it can be done in a laparoscopic surgery. And sometimes it's also done in a hysteroscopic surgery. There are different types of surgery. You will need to ask your gynecologist for what suits you best. But like I said earlier on, treatment for fibroid is usually individualized. It depends on the age of the woman. It depends on her desirability for more children. It depends on the size of the fibroid. It depends on the location of the fibroid. And it depends on whether it's one fibroid or there are multiple fibroid. Thank you for listening to this short episode on fibroid. You can read more about uterine fibroid in my book. The book is called How to Get Pregnant and Have a Baby. It's available on Amazon, and you can also get it on our website at www.stivehealthcare.com.